Have you ever whispered this question in the dark? How? How am I going to get through this? How will I pay the bills, fix the relationship, fight the anxiety, hear from God? When your whole life becomes a never-ending string of hows, it's easy to spiral into overthinking, fear, and spiritual exhaustion. And maybe, just maybe, you've started to wonder, is God even listening? Here's the part nobody really talks about. Faith isn't built in clarity. It's forged in confusion. While we scramble for instructions, blueprints, timelines, and answers, God often responds with just His presence. Not a step-by-step plan, not instant relief, just the steady whisper, "I'm here." It doesn't sound like a fix, but it's the foundation of everything. That's the paradox. God is in control even when you don't feel in control. And when you're begging for a how, what you're really craving is reassurance that you're not alone. In this video, we're diving deep. We'll explore why trusting God in hard times isn't a spiritual cliché, but a lifeline. We'll uncover how to stop overthinking, how to hear God's voice in the silence, and how to shift from fear to faith, even when your world is upside down. This isn't just Christian inspiration. This is a message for your soul, one that'll stretch you, grow you, and remind you that even in your darkest how, God has already said, "I'm here." The trap of constantly asking how. Most people don't realize how quickly one innocent how can spiral into a full-blown crisis of faith. It starts small. How will I fix this? How will I move forward? But before you know it, you're tangled in anxiety, overthinking every step, and trying to solve life like a math problem. The danger isn't just the stress. It's that this mindset shifts your focus from who God is to what you can do without Him. And that's where peace starts slipping through your fingers. Think about it. When you wake up already calculating your problems, it's like trying to outrun a storm barefoot. The how becomes your obsession, and trust takes a back seat. That's not faith, that's fear wearing a spiritual mask. You're not alone if you've Googled how to trust God more than you've prayed lately. And if you're honest, maybe you've even tried to convince yourself that worrying harder is the same as being responsible. Here's where the shift begins, learning to replace the question how with who. Who holds my future? Who has a plan for me? This isn't just poetic talk. It's the first real key to overcoming anxiety with faith. And sometimes, that starts with something as simple as refusing to rehearse the worst-case scenario for the 10th time today. Instead, pause. Ask God, what are you saying to me right now? You might be surprised by the stillness that answers back. But that's just the beginning. Why God doesn't always answer the way we expect. Let's be real. We love control. We want clear signs, quick responses, and a step-by-step manual from heaven. But when you're waiting on God, it often feels like He's gone radio silent. You pray, you fast, you cry, and still, silence. This is where so many people start to doubt God's plan or even His love. But what if the silence isn't rejection? What if it's preparation? Sometimes God is silent because He's doing something in you, not just for you. Imagine asking for rain and not realizing that God is first preparing the soil. That's what it's like when His timing doesn't match our own. The Bible is full of people who waited. Abraham, Joseph, David. Each one heard promises but had to trust without proof. This is the tension of faith over fear, learning to be still when every part of you wants to move. And sometimes the longer the silence, the deeper the lesson God is planting in your spirit. So how do you survive that space between prayer and breakthrough? One practical way is to journal your prayers. Not just what you ask for, but how you feel waiting. Another is to study others who waited on God. Joseph in prison, Moses in the wilderness, even Jesus in the garden. Their delays weren't denials. They were divine detours. And in those moments, God's presence becomes the only answer you need. But there's something deeper behind that stillness. God's presence is the answer you didn't know you needed. Here's a truth most of us miss. Sometimes the miracle isn't the answer. It's the awareness of God's presence. When we ask, "How will I get through this?" God often answers, "With me." Not with a fix, not with a formula, but with himself. That might sound vague or even frustrating if you're in the middle of chaos, but it's exactly what your soul is starving for. Deep down, we don't just want solutions. We want to feel held, seen, and safe. Picture this: a child wakes up in the night, terrified. They don't want explanations. They want their parent to hold them. That's what God's presence in hard times is like. It doesn't erase the storm, but it anchors you in it. You may not know how to let go and let God, but simply sitting in silence, whispering, "God, I know you're here," is often more powerful than hours of panicked planning. Peace isn't found in perfect plans. It's found in presence. Want something practical? Start your day by saying, "God, I don't need all the answers today. I just need you." Sit with that. Write it down. Let that become your reset button every time anxiety creeps in. The more you practice this, the more you'll sense him in moments that used to undo you. But this presence, it also begins to do something unexpected. It reshapes how you hear God's voice. Learning to hear God's voice in a world full of noise. In a world where every device is shouting for your attention, hearing God's voice can feel impossible. But here's the truth: God is speaking. We've just forgotten how to listen. His voice isn't usually loud or dramatic. It's often a whisper that cuts through the chaos. And if you're constantly overthinking, trying to control everything, or clinging to fear, you'll miss it. Learning to hear God starts with learning to quiet your soul. Many expect to hear God like a booming voice from the sky, but more often, he speaks through peace, a sudden clarity, or even a verse that hits differently than usual. Take time to unplug. Go for a walk without your phone. Open your Bible with a journal and ask, "God, what do you want me to hear today?" You might be surprised how often his answer comes disguised as a nudge, a still thought, or even a divine interruption in your plans. That's spiritual encouragement in its rawest form. And here's something counterintuitive. Sometimes when God is quiet, it's actually an invitation to go deeper, not drift away. His silence isn't punishment, it's positioning. He's shifting your focus from external noise to internal growth. God will hold you through that discomfort, but you have to lean in. Because once you begin to hear his voice more clearly, you start to trust his timing more deeply. And that trust leads to something even more freeing. Trusting God's timing. When you're tired of waiting, let's face it, waiting is one of the hardest things God asks us to do, especially when everything inside you screams, "Do something." But here's the strange beauty of God's timing. It's rarely fast, but it's always right. The delay isn't denial, it's development. God isn't just setting things up around you. He's working on something inside you. And when you're focused on why God is silent, he's focused on who you're becoming in the silence. Think about it like this. If God gave you everything you wanted right now, would you be ready to carry it? Sometimes the blessing you're praying for requires the version of you that's still being built. That's why the wait is sacred. It stretches your faith, grows your patience, and teaches you that faith, not fear, is how you're meant to walk. Trusting God in hard times isn't passive. It's a fierce daily choice to believe God is in control, even when nothing makes sense. So how do you stop worrying while you wait? You practice surrender. You repeat his promises out loud. You write down every small win. You remind yourself that God's plan may be hidden, but it's never missing. And just when you think he's forgotten you, he shows up in a way no how could have predicted. Because here's the thing, God will make a way. And the deeper you trust his timing, the more peace you'll have in the not yet. But now that we've opened all of this, what do you do with it? So, now you've seen it. Behind every how, there's a deeper invitation from God whispering, "I'm here." Not just to fix your problems, but to walk with you through them. The overthinking, the anxiety, the sleepless nights where you stare at the ceiling begging God for a sign, that wasn't wasted. That was training. Training your spirit to recognize his presence over your panic. Because you don't need all the answers. You need to know you're not alone in the questions. Here's the challenge. Will you stop chasing control and start choosing trust? Will you trade the fear of the unknown for the peace of knowing the one who holds it all? You've just unpacked powerful truths about faith over fear, God's plan, hearing his voice, and waiting on His timing. But knowledge without action is just spiritual entertainment. So what will you do differently this week? Will you pause before spiraling? Will you ask, God, what are you saying in this? Instead of, how do I fix this? If this message stirred something in you, even just a little, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, because we're just getting started. There's more truth, more encouragement, and more real talk for your walk with God coming your way. This is your moment. Don't scroll past it. Don't wait for life to slow down. Let this be the week you choose trust over tension. You've asked how long enough. Now it's time to believe that even in the unknown, God is here.